Well, if nothing else, this movie gave me an interesting bit of history, like an interesting history lesson. Not regarding like actual like medieval history, but history of the Smurfs. So, yeah. So, here are my thoughts on the Smurfs and the Magic Flute. So, I guess for this review, I do need to go a little bit into the history of the Smurfs. So, so basically, there was this French magazine back in the 50s, with like a bunch of cartoons, and I guess the main one was called Spyro, I forget, but yeah, there was a cartoon on there that focused on this character in the medieval ages. This page to a king named Johann, and later on in the comic series, he met with this character named Peewit, and Peewit kind of became his jester sidekick. And I think Johann becomes a squire later in the series. And yeah, for a while we focus on these two characters. And then comes one particular comic, and I believe it's called The Flute with the Six Holes, which is the comic that this movie is based on. And it is in this comic where the Smurfs make their first appearance. And then later they decided to give the Smurfs a spin-off comic. So yeah, that comic premiered in like late 50s. And then they made some Smurf shorts in the 60s, and they kind of put them together into a movie, but I don't know, I didn't feel that really qualified for my review series, so I didn't look at it, but yeah, then like a decade later, they made this movie, and yeah, you could kind of consider this movie like the unofficial pilot to the Smurfs cartoon series in the 80s. So yeah, the Hanna-Barbera series. Hanna-Barbera was not behind this one, but yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting bit of trivia. I didn't even know the Smurfs were around that long. So the Smurfs don't actually appear until like a third into the movie. So yeah, the title of this movie is pretty misleading. So the title should be changed to The Magic Flute or something, or I guess The Flute with the Six Holes would work, but yeah, the Smurfs aren't the focus of the movie. It's Johann and Peewit. So yeah. So the story is, there's this kingdom, and there's Johann the squire to the king and his jester sidekick Peewit. The movie seems to assume you know these characters already, and I don't know, maybe they got some cartoon series at some point, maybe. Yeah, it was a little unexpected, since I was expecting the Smurfs, and I got these two characters I never heard of before. Yeah, Peewit is like this bad musician who plays he doesn't know how to play an instrument, and he's a bad singer. And then later, this merchant comes in, and he's selling a bunch of instruments, and one of them is the flute in question. The king sends him away, but he drops the flute on his way out, and the king and the squire try to burn it because they don't want the jester to find out about it, because they don't want him playing this instrument, but the flute doesn't burn. Instead, it makes a big fire in the king's room, and so they put out the fire, and then Peewit finds the flute, and then he starts playing it, and it turns out it has magic powers. Any person, human being. It doesn't seem to work on any animals or Smurfs, so yeah, it looks like it only works on humans. So yeah, you play it around a human, they dance for a little bit, and then they fall asleep. So yeah, he kind of abuses the instrument for a bit, and then this thief catches wind of it. He finds out from the merchant that the king sent out. So yeah, he plots to steal the flute, and then he tricks Peewit to giving it to him, and then he plays the flute himself, and yeah, Peewit gets, he falls asleep, and then he ties him up and stuff. So yeah, then the thief goes around using the flute to steal jewels and other treasures, and then it's up to Johann and Peewit to reclaim the flute from the guy. So they enlist the help of a wizard who magically transfers them to the land of the Smurfs. So apparently they couldn't find the place on their own. Well, I guess the Smurfs, because the Smurfs do travel to their castle effectively enough, but I guess the Smurf kingdom or whatever, where the Smurfs live, it's pretty far away, I guess. So Johann and Peewit had to be magically transferred over there. So they're at the home of the Smurfs, and the Smurfs show them around, and then they make another flute so that they can take on the thief, and I don't need to go into all the details, but yeah, that's the basic story. The Smurfs are only they're only supporting characters in this, and this is before Gargamel was introduced, and before he created Smurfette, because I know he created Smurfette at the start of the Smurf series. Mind you, I barely know anything about the Smurfs. I think, the only Smurf-related thing I've ever watched was, this Christmas special cartoon based on the cartoon series. Aside from that, I don't think I've watched anything Smurf-related, because, I haven't even watched any of the movies, which is probably for the best, but, well, I know later on I'll watch the fully animated Smurf movies, which I hear isn't too bad. So, anyway, let's see. I guess the scenes with the Smurfs themselves was pretty overly cute. They sing these schmaltzy songs. One of them was kind of funny about, Peewit trying to, master their language, I guess, and he's trying to ask them for a glass of water, but he's trying to ask them by attempting their Smurf dialects, by replacing certain words with Smurf. That was kind of a funny song, but yeah, it's quite a few Smurf songs in a row, and it gets a bit much. So anyway, what do I say about the movie? It was fine. I can't say I'm a fan of the Smurfs. I haven't even watched any of their cartoons, but they're not in the movie that long, so it doesn't ruin the experience or anything. yeah, I guess the two main characters are fine. There's not much to them. Um, but yeah, I know it's based on a comic series, and whatever. I guess they might have adapted it just fine. I don't know. I know nothing about either of these series except some basic stuff with the Smurfs. I mean, honestly, the most fun part with this movie is listening to the Smurfs talk and like, you know, basically making fun of how they replace certain words with Smurf, especially when it sounds like they might have said something really dirty underneath that Smurf, you know. Yeah, so there's like when you first encounter, or yeah, when Johann and Peewit first meet one of the Smurfs, he replaces a lot of words with Smurfs, and yeah, it somehow sounded kind of dirty from what little we heard. Yeah. Well, you know, when they like use Smurf as a verb, that tends to sound pretty dirty. But yeah, I might do like a Mashit review and like make fun of all of the Smurf dialects and stuff. So yeah. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot to say about the movie. I thought it was okay. You know, it might have gotten a little annoying at times. I guess Peewit is a little annoying. I'd probably say the ending, like, without giving too much away, I was like, regarding something that Peewit was doing, I was like, oh god, he better not. Because I was going to be pretty annoyed if they went in that direction, but turns out this thing he was trying to do, you know, or he kind of failed, and I'm like, oh, thank God. So yeah, but yeah, otherwise the movie was all right. I got nothing too much against it. It's yeah, I mean, just I guess the worst part is just the presence of the Smurfs, which, you know, I can see why a lot of people were likely annoyed by them. They also have their share of fans, but, you know, I know there's a lot of people who don't like them, and I can see why. But yeah, otherwise I don't have a whole lot to say about the movie. You know, there wasn't a whole lot in terms of comedy or, you know, animation that I haven't seen before. It was just okay. I mean, I guess the story was interesting enough. But yeah, aside from that, there's not a whole lot to say about the movie. But there's probably a lot to make fun of, which is why I might make a Masha review in the future. So yeah, so would I recommend it? Maybe if you're a fan of the Smurfs. I give this movie a Smurf out of 10. No, seriously, I give it a 6 out of 10. And yeah, if there's anything else I need to Smurf, I'll Smurf it in the comments. And yeah, that's about Smurf for now. So yeah, mash it and smash it, Smurfing off.